to Phoebe Asiyo. It's my pleasure to read her eulogy. Phoebe Muga Asiyo was born on September 12, 1932 in Gendia village, Bay County, Kenya. Her family comes from the Agoro subclan of the Luo community, known for its strong traditions and matriarchal values. Growing up at the Gendia mission station, she was surrounded by missionaries who taught her important values and beliefs. Her dad, Joel Omer, was a Seventh-day Adventist evangelist who traveled a lot to preach, and Phoebe learned the importance of serving others and sharing stories. Her mother, Miriam Amolo, was a famous traditional midwife and herbalist who was respected for her knowledge and kindness in caring for mothers and babies. Phoebe had several siblings and grew up in a big, close-knit family that supported each other and showed respect for one another. From a young age, she noticed and learned about challenges women faced in her society. They were often overworked and didn't have much in say of decisions, but they were still the heart and soul of families and communities everywhere. My Dani's journey to education was tough, especially in colonial Kenya, where boys were the priority. Girls like Phoebe barely made it past primary school, but Phoebe was determined. She went to Gendia Primary School from 1938 to 1945 and later joined Kamagambo Girls' School for secondary education. Back then, only 65 out of over 1,100 candidates for Kenya's Certificate of Primary Education were girls, and Phoebe was one of them. Can you imagine that? She was a real star student, but life wasn't always easy. At Kamagambo, girls were often left out of math and English classes, but Phoebe wasn't one to back down. She fought for her right to learn and helped change the rules. Teachers at Kamagambo noticed her dedication and encouraged her to focus on her studies instead of getting married early, which was a norm for girls in her community in Kenya at the time. After Kamagambo, Phoebe went to Kangaroo Teacher Training College in Embu. This was a huge step for her. She was one of the few African girls of her generation to train as a teacher. She was a trailblazer for girls' education in her region, and everyone in her village respected and admired her. Phoebe met her husband, Bezalel Richard Asiyo Genga, in 1951. They got married and went on to have 5 lovely children together. Phoebe's home became a heaven for kids and relatives as well as orphans. It's a true testament to her incredible generosity. Phoebe's early career was marked by teaching and social work. She started as a primary school teacher, soon became involved in addressing bigger social issues. When the state of emergency was declared during the Mau Mau uprising in 1950, she decided to switch to social work with the Nairobi Municipal Council. Amidst all the chaos and violence of colonial times, tribal segregation and family breakdowns, Phoebe supported mothers and children who had been displaced by the conflict. She fought for fairness, hygiene, and the rights of women workers in Nairobi estates and factories. Phoebe's commitment to social justice and children's welfare also led her to participate in campaigns to provide education and basic services to the most vulnerable of communities. Maendeleo ya Wanawake and women's activism, a legacy of love and service. Phoebe joined Maendeleo ya Wanawake in 1953, just a few years after it was first founded. She played a huge role in turning Maendeleo from a colonial white-run organization into a national platform for African women's development. She got rural women involved, started economic empowerment programs, and fought for better maternal and child health, education, and political participation. In 1958, Asiyo became the first African president of Maendeleo ya Wanawake. She totally defied the segregationist plans of the colonial government and built a massive network of women. Her leadership was key in challenging discrimination, organizing protests for African representation in national women's organizations, and fighting for women's rights during Kenya's independence. After Kenya gained independence, Asiyo became the assistant superintendent of prisons, becoming the first African woman to hold that position. She fought for the dignity and special treatment of female prisoners and mothers, opposed the death penalty, and set up programs to help prisoners and mothers get back on their feet. Asiyo's leadership continued to grow, and she was appointed to the United Nations. She served on several Kenyan delegations to the UN General Assembly, championing human rights and anti-discrimination, policies and women's rights around the world. As Kenya's delegate to the Commission on the Status of Women, she helped shape important policies on gender equality, development, and peace. In 1979, after local elders endorsed her, Phoebe entered politics. She became a member of parliament for Karachuonyo. Her campaign broke cultural taboos and inspired a huge movement of women into politics. Even though she faced misogynist attacks and electoral violence throughout her career, Asiyo fought against policies and practices that kept women from having equal rights. She was a key player in community development, setting up schools, health centers, irrigation and water projects, and women's self-help groups. Her leadership style was all about making sure everyone was included and taking care of others. Thank you very much.
My name is Ethan Amani, great-grandson of Dani. His Excellency, the President, and all protocols observed, thank you for coming.
Basi tunatambua kufika kwa Mheshimiwa Uhuru Odinga. Makofi yake tafadhali ili tuendelee na ratiba.
Here are some of her achievements and the lasting impact she had. Legislative advocacy. In 1997, Asiyo introduced a groundbreaking motion in Parliament called the Affirmative Action Motion. This motion called for the legal requirement for women to be included in decision-making at all levels of government. Although it was initially rejected, Asiyo's advocacy was a major step forward and helped pave the way for gender equality in Kenya's 2010 constitution. Transforming women's movements. Asiyo's leadership in the National Council of Women of Kenya and various local and international forums laid the foundation for future generations of Kenyan women leaders. International recognition. Asiyo served as a goodwill ambassador for the UN Development Fund for Women, advising global policy and connecting Kenyan women's activism to the international stage. Community impact. Asiyo was instrumental in founding Nyaburi School for the Physically Challenged, driving medical outreach programs and championing marginalized groups. Role model and mentor. She mentored many women who later became prominent leaders in politics, academia, and civil society. Asiyo's personal qualities and influence were truly remarkable. She was a fierce advocate for women's rights and a dedicated servant leader who made a lasting impact on the lives of many. Phoebe Asiyo's life is a true testament to courage, wit, and a deep sense of justice. Growing up in a culturally rich and faith-filled environment, she developed a vision for gender equality and social transformation. Her resilience and compassion have inspired countless women and men in Kenya, across Africa, and many parts of the world. Now, let's talk about the significant impact Phoebe Asiyo has had on Kenyan society and women's empowerment. Pioneering women's political representation, advancing women's roles in politics,